We sit, not in the hobbit holes of the Shire, nor the shadowed halls of Moria, but amidst the sprawling legacy of J.R.R. Tolkien's Middle-earth. His realm, etched in the minds of countless, spans beyond mere fiction. Here, in this circle of intellectual mavericks, we dissect its essence. I'm Virginia Woolf, your guide through this labyrinth of thought and narrative.
The fabric of Middle-earth, it strikes me, is woven not of threads, but of memories, myths, the old songs. Tolkien, the architect of languages, built not just a world but a cosmos, echoing Joyce in its labyrinthine complexity, yet diverging into the mythic, where I delve into the psyche.
Let's not dance around with too many words. Tolkien fought in the trenches like me. He saw the world stripped to its bones. This Middle-earth of his isn't just myth and language. It's the rawness of life and death, the starkness I bleed into my sentences.
The richness of memory, as explored by our esteemed Tolkien, resonates deeply with my own explorations. In every corner of Middle-earth, there's a nostalgia, an aching for times lost, lands changed. This interplay between memory and reality is the true battleground.
Middle-earth, with its tragic heroes and flawed beauty, mirrors the Jazz Age's disillusionment I so often depict. Tolkien's world is a grand stage for the nobility of struggle, the allure of the doomed yet defiant gesture against the dark. A noble Gatsby in Frodo, perhaps.
Tolkien carves into the bark of the world tree itself, delving into the human condition through elves, men, dwarves. The South, my own realm, not unlike Middle-earth, is a land of ghosts and shadows, where history is a living, breathing thing. But does it not perhaps gloss too neatly over the contradictions of its own mythos?
Indeed, this world is a prism reflecting varied facets of human experience. Through myth, language, heroism, and the very nature that cradles civilization, Tolkien challenges, comforts, and sometimes evades. As we venture forth, let us unravel these complexities, not in search of answers, but understanding. We begin our journey into Middle-earth, a land rich with the echoes of myth and folklore. Marcel, would you say Tolkien's layering of historical depths in his world mirrors your exploration of memory?
Indeed, Virginia. Tolkien crafts Middle-earth with a nostalgia that binds the present to the past, much like the involuntary memories of my narratives. It's not merely a setting. It's a memoryscape, alive with the echoes of its own history.
But let's not forget the elasticity of his language, the way it stretches to encompass these myths, creating its own mythopoeic tapestry. Language for Tolkien isn't just a tool but an organism, evolving alongside his tales.
Words are fine, but let's get to the point. Middle-earth's foundation in myth gives it weight, yes, but it's the straightforwardness of its presentation, the clear conflict that drives the narrative. Myths are stories. Stories need backbone.
But, Ernest, isn't the depth of these myths what gives the narrative its soul? Without the layers, the echoes of the past, it would be but a shell.
The idea that Middle-earth could serve as a mirror to our collective unconscious is fascinating. It's as though Tolkien taps into shared myths to convey truths about the human condition.
Middle-earth does more than reflect the human psyche. It embodies the clash of ideals, the yearning for a past age of heroism. There's a romance in its mythology, a longing for something forever out of reach.
A longing, yes, but articulated through such a confluence of myth and language that it transcends mere nostalgia. Tolkien reshapes our understanding of myths, making us participants in their evolution. Yet in this reshaping, there's a sense of tragedy. The myths of Middle-earth, their folkloric roots, they speak to a world steeped in the shadow of loss, of wars that leave lands forever scarred.
This tragedy, this shadow, it infuses Tolkien's world with a depth that's palpable. It's not just in the grand narrative, but in the very soil of Middle-earth, in the heart of its people.
Shadows and soil don't interest me as much as the grit and resolve of Tolkien's characters. It's in their actions, their struggles against the weight of this mythic past, that the story finds its truth.
Actions framed by language, Ernest. Every myth Tolkien draws on, every folk tale he weaves into the narrative's fabric is a testament to the power of words to shape worlds, to command destiny.
And so, our discussion leads us to the conclusion that Middle-earth, in all its layered complexity, serves as a profound reflection on the nature of myth, memory, and the very language we use to convey our deepest stories. Let's delve into Tolkien's creation of languages in Middle-earth. It's an amalgamation of sounds, words, myths. Marcel, your narrative work shows a meticulous attention to detail. How do you perceive Tolkien's linguistic craftsmanship?
Language, in Tolkien's realm, is not merely a tool for communication, but a foundation for his world's very essence. His philological expertise weaves through the narrative, much like memory threads through consciousness in my own work. Each constructed language, with its syntax and etymology, serves to deepen the history and culture of its speakers, enriching the narrative with a texture that invites the reader to explore beyond the surface.
Language, yes, but let's not cloak it solely in admiration. The real elasticity here, the breaking and reshaping of linguistic conventions, reveals a deeper narrative. Tolkien's endeavor, while admirable, is an attempt to grasp at a form of linguistic idealism. But where does this leave us, the reader, in the chaos of understanding? My work seeks to dismantle such constructions, to expose the fluidity of consciousness, rather than to erect monuments to forgotten tongues.
Complexity for complexity's sake doesn't make a narrative strong. It's the straightforward moments, the clear shots fired across the bow, that hit hardest. Tolkien's languages, while impressive, risk overshadowing the simple truths of story: courage, sacrifice, friendship. These are the bones of any tale worth telling, not the decorative tapestries of language hung on the walls.
Yet isn't there a beauty in the layers, Ernest? The same way the South's dialects paint a richer image of its heritage and scars, Tolkien's languages craft a profound cultural depth. It's not merely about complexity, but about embedding the tales with a soul. My Yoknapatawpha County breathes through its dialect. Middle-earth's soul is its languages.
Tolkien indeed frames his narrative with a linguistic structure that offers readers gateways into Middle-earth. Still, does this emphasis on language and its intricate tapestry not also pose a barrier, sifting through readers between those entranced by such depth and those alienated by its academic veneer?
Virginia, that's precisely it. We're enchanted by the lore, the depth, but also confronted by its exclusivity. The romance of Tolkien's world is palpable, the tragic heroic versus the corroding evil. Yet, this romance is sometimes lost in the translation between his constructed languages and the reader's heart. Our own flaws and aspirations get tangled in the syntax of languages we don't speak.
But isn't that just the pursuit of art? To create worlds within worlds, layers of meaning and sound that echo the complexity of life itself. Tolkien does not simply invent languages, he revives the lost art of storytelling, where every word is a stepping stone into realms undreamt.
Echoes, Marcel, but echoes that sometimes fail to resonate beyond the scholarly halls. Art's true calling is to disrupt, to confront. Tolkien, though he sculpts with language, often polishes too finely, losing the raw, unvarnished truth that speaks directly to the soul.
Each perspective adds a facet to our understanding of Tolkien's linguistic artistry. Whether viewed as a barrier or a bridge, the constructed languages of Middle-earth undeniably enrich its narrative tapestry, inviting readers to immerse themselves in its depths or admire from afar. Let us delve into the portrayal of heroism and the concept of the reluctant hero in Tolkien's oeuvre. It's a matter as complex as the nature of courage itself.
Ah, the reluctant hero, there's a romantic beauty in that, isn't there? Tolkien's characters, much like my own, embody a certain nobility amidst tragedy. Frodo Baggins, for example, is but a small figure against a vast, menacing world, yet his journey is profoundly heroic. It echoes Gatsby in a way, striving against an insurmountable current.
Indeed, Scott. However, I find the depths of memory and time in Tolkien's work particularly moving. The reluctant hero's journey is not merely across landscapes, but also through the layers of their own character, much like my explorations into the recesses of memory. Frodo's reluctance is a tapestry of fear, duty, and self-discovery.
Heroism isn't about reluctance or embracing a destiny. It's about action, doing what needs to be done despite fearing the very act. Frodo went forward because there was no other choice that led to survival. It's the same with men in war. You move forward, or you perish. Complexity in motive doesn't negate the simplicity of action.
Yet, isn't there a delightful complexity in the language of heroism itself? Tolkien, through his narrative, stretches the confines of what it means to be a hero. The elasticity of his language allows for a multitude to find resonance within a single character's journey, much as when I play with narrative structures to unravel the complexities of human consciousness.
Ernest, you see heroism in its most unadorned form. Yet I posit that the psychological depth of the reluctant hero, such as Frodo or even Aragorn, enriches the narrative, adding layers of internal conflict that mirror societal expectations.
Virginia, there's truth in what you say, but sometimes depth is found in the silence between actions rather than in the reluctance to act. The greatest courage is often silent, uncelebrated.
But doesn't that silence, that reluctance, speak volumes of the human condition, Ernest? It's in the hesitation, the fear, the doubt, where we truly find the measure of a hero. Their nobility is born from overcoming these very human elements.
The fabric of heroism is indeed woven with threads of doubt, uncertainty, action, and inaction. In Proustian memory, every hero is reluctant, for they must first wrestle with the past before facing the quest that the present demands.
And yet, in weaving such a narrative, doesn't Tolkien invite us to ponder the nature of our own heroism? The reluctance is a mirror held up to our psyche, questioning how far we would go when faced with the impossible. I've sat quietly, listening, contemplating. In every hero's reluctance, there lies a dark thread of inevitability. The world moves not in the clear paths of courage, but through the murky waters of fear, doubt, and eventually, understanding. Tolkien's world, like the Yoknatafa County, is rife with heroes who are as flawed as they are valiant, a reflection of every man's battle against the inexorable tide of fate.
A spirited tableau of thoughts, indeed. In Tolkien's portrayal of heroism, and most notably the reluctant hero, there lies a rich landscape of psychological, societal, and existential musings that invite us to reflect on our own internal battles and virtues. We now turn to a critical vein within Tolkien's work, the juxtaposition of nature and industrialization. It's undeniable that the pastoral idyls of the Shire stand in stark contrast to the smoldering desolation of Isengard under Saruman's rule. But what does this duality tell us about modernity, about the force of industrial advancement at the expense of natural beauty?
There's a raw honesty in the way Tolkien strips bare the carcass of nature, laying it out for us to see the gnarled bones picked clean by the ravenous teeth of industry. It's like observing the American South being swallowed by the relentless march of progress. Saruman's Isengard, with its pits and forges, its choking smoke, isn't just a fantasy. It's a mirror held up to our world, reflecting the grotesque transformation of landscapes into graveyards of ambition. But here's where you stroll too willingly into Tolkien's trap. For Isengard isn't merely a condemnation of industrialization, but a complex symbol resonant with multiplicity of meanings. Is it not also a metaphor for linguistic corruption, the perversion of meaning? Just as Saruman's machines twist the land, his words twist the truth. Nature and industry in Tolkien's work are but two dialects in the larger language of existence.
You're dressing up the simple to make it sound profound. It's not that complicated. Tolkien fought in the Great War, saw the world chewed up by machines, men turned to fodder. What he writes is a soldier's lament. The Shire is what was lost, Isengard what we gained in return. A bad bargain. Nature in his eyes is something clean, honest. Industrialization is the liar. It promises progress but delivers only a wasteland.
To see it solely as a lament, Ernest, seems to me, misses the breadth of Tolkien's vision. Yes, there's loss, profound and deep, but there's also resilience, a celebration of the pastoral and the simple life that manages to survive the encroachment of the mechanical. It's this tension, this battle between the old world and the new, that gives the narrative its poignancy. It's Gatsby's green light, forever out of reach, yet forever yearned for.
And what of Saruman's choice, the willful embrace of the machine over the living earth? Doesn't it speak to a broader theme of power and its corrupting influence?
Power, Virginia? Yes, but it's the power over narrative, over life's story. Saruman seeks to author the future, disregarding the past and its natural roots, eager to enforce his will through the machine. It's man's eternal folly, believing he can control the narrative, when in truth, he's but a character in it, often tragic. In the end, industrialization in Tolkien's narrative is yet another character, complex and multifaceted. To distill its meaning to a single interpretation is to do a disservice not only to Tolkien's work, but to the very essence of literature itself.
It appears, then, that in our exploration of nature versus industrialization, we find not a simple dichotomy, but a rich tapestry of conflict, symbolism, and the human experience. Tolkien's Middle-earth, far from being an escapist fantasy, confronts us with pressing realities, challenging us to question, reflect, and perhaps dream of green pastures amidst the smokestacks. Marcel, you find philosophical depth in Tolkien's narrative decisions, particularly in the dance between fate and free will. Share your insights, if you please.
Indeed, Virginia, the nuances of destiny and choice permeate Tolkien's world, much like the lingering sense of a Madeline bear memories of times lost, yet never forgotten. In The Lord of the Rings, the characters are not merely puppets of fate. Rather, they exist in a delicate state of awareness, a boundary where their actions, however minute, ripple through the fabric of their reality. To me, this suggests a universe where the past is always present, shaping the future, yet leaving room for the unforeseen, much like in my own explorations of memory.
That's all well and good, Marcel, but let's not dress it up too much. Fate and free will in Tolkien. It's about war, choices, and the consequences. You've got Frodo making the hard choice to take the ring to Mordor. No destiny handed him that ticket. It was his to pick up. Not unlike men I've known, choosing to face a bullet or not. It's stark, straightforward.
And yet, Ernest, those very choices can be interpreted through the lens of fate. The ring chose Frodo, as Gandalf suggested. There's a push and pull, layers that suggest maybe the path is preordained, yet the steps we take are ours alone to make.
Virginia's point twines around my own sentiment. Fate in Tolkien's Middle-earth, as in the blighted towns and swollen rivers of my Mississippi, is a current that might carry you, but within which you can still swim. Frodo was born by the current of destiny, yet it was his own paddling that navigated those waters. In this manner, Tolkien illustrates the complexity of human agency against the immutable face of destiny. It's a moot point, really, this arguing of fate versus free will. Life's a stream, and we're all flotsam, aren't we? Tolkien, like us, writes of the struggle, of the journey. Whether it's the Lorelei singing you to your doom or the call of the ring, what matters is the tale, the flux, the ebb. Our heroes' choices are their own, yet always under the shadow of the mountain, the inevitability of their quest's end.
I believe we're missing the romantic heroism in this discussion, the beauty of choice in spite of fate. Isn't there something profoundly heroic about pressing on when the end seems both inevitable and dire? It's the struggle against what appears to be fate that defines a character. Gatsby reaching for the green light, always just out of reach, echoes Frodo's journey toward Mordor. The beauty is in the reaching, the striving, not the attaining.
Fascinating perspectives, each weaving a distinct pattern from the same thread. This interplay of fate and free will indeed appears as a core theme, not just in Tolkien's narrative, but in our own works and philosophies. Whether our characters navigate the rivers of fate through their own volition or are swept along by the currents of destiny, it is this tension that crafts the essence of drama and humanity in our tales. Let's delve into the murky waters of evil in Middle-earth. Tolkien's portrayal of corruption and the fall from grace is both complex and controversial. Ernest, you've seen the worst of human nature firsthand. Does Tolkien's depiction resonate with you?
It does. He gets it right, the part about evil being a reflection of the corruption within. Men aren't born evil, they're made by choice or by circumstance. The orcs, for example, twisted and corrupted versions of elves, show us that. There's a simplicity in that, a truth that hits you hard, like a bullet.
Ah, but the depth of evil in Tolkien's world, it's not just about corruption, but also about the loss of identity. Take Gollum, for instance. His fall from the grace of being Smeagol to becoming Gollum is the heart of tragedy itself. It's the giving away of one's soul piece by piece for power, or in his case, for the ring. It's the quintessence of Faulknerian despair. Language, my friends, language. Tolkien's true mastery lies in how he uses language to shape his conception of evil. The very names he chooses, Mordor, Sauron, Gollum, they carry with them a philological significance that's chilling. You read those names and the very sound conveys malice, decay. Like my own exploration into the consciousness, Tolkien delves into the subconscious fears through his linguistic choices.
The interplay between light and dark, good and evil, it's all about memory, isn't it? Just as one might dip a madeleine into tea to evoke a flood of memories, Tolkien uses evil, not merely as a force, but as a memory, a shadow from the past that continues to darken the present. This is reflected in how the characters must contend with the legacies of their forebears, much akin to living in the shadow of one's own past deeds, unable to escape.
And what of the everyday evil, the temptation to exert power over others, as Saruman does? Tolkien doesn't just give us dark lords and monsters. He offers us a mirror to our own potential for darkness.
Exactly. But there's romanticism even in his portrayal of evil, don't you think? Darkness is there not merely to be vanquished, but understood. It's about the allure of power, the tragedy of its corruption. Saruman, with all his knowledge and wisdom, falls not because he's inherently evil, but because he succumbs to the lure of power. It's a narrative as old as time, yet Tolkien infuses it with a certain nobility. Even in his villains, there's a lament for what could have been, akin to Gatsby reaching for the green light, always out of reach.
Nobility? In evil? I don't buy it. It's the clarity of choice, the decisive moment when a man turns away from the light or towards it. It's not about lamenting the past, it's about facing it, straight on.
Yet isn't it precisely those moments of choice, Ernest, that render Tolkien's narrative so compelling? The interplay of light and shadow, the potential for redemption, or the fall into despair, isn't it reflective of the very essence of the human condition?
That's just it, isn't it? Light and shadow, yes, but woven intricately through language. Evil isn't stated, it's evoked, lived through the prose. As an artist, one has to admire that craftsmanship, even if one might strive for a different aim. The rhythm of the storytelling itself captures the essence of the struggle. And in the end, isn't that the point of all our writing? To capture that essence, the struggle, the conflict, the very soul of the human experience. Tolkien, for all the fantasy and high kings, gets to something deeply true about the nature of despair and hope, darkness and light.
Indeed. In exploring the depths of evil, Tolkien allows us to confront our own darkness, as well as our capacity for great courage and sacrifice. Through his narrative, we are invited to reflect on our choices, our values, and ultimately on the resilience of the human spirit in the face of profound darkness. Tolkien's integration of poetry and song into the narrative fabric of The Lord of the Rings attempts to create a world rich with cultural depth and historical resonance. Thoughts?
The elusiveness of Tolkien's verse, reminds me of stream of consciousness, bending language to his will, crafting rhythms that mimic the ebb and flow of human consciousness itself. Though, if I must say, it seems a bit overindulgent at times, doesn't it? Wrapping simple ideas in layers of ornate language.
But James, you're missing the romanticism, the sheer beauty in his poetry. It's as if each verse captures a moment, crystallizing it in time like Gatsby's green light, unreachable yet perpetually alluring. Tolkien taps into that same longing, that yearning for a world beyond our reach.
Indeed, Scott. The temporal quality of Tolkien's songs, the way they reflect on the past and yearn for what once was, mirrors my own explorations of memory. Yet there's an accessibility in his work I find somewhat lacking. Where he opts for mythic grandeur, I seek the intimate landscapes of memory and desire.
Enough of this. Poetry in Tolkien's time, it's a history lesson, not a story. War chants, elven hymns, they're like the clean, well-lighted place. They offer solace, a brief respite, but don't mistake them for the meat of the story. No, that lies in the action, the conflict, the human or hobbit struggle.
Ernest, you old cynic, you're overlooking the layers. The songs, they're not just decoration. They're the soul of Middle-earth, woven into its very essence. Tolkien's South is akin to my Deep South, a place of haunting beauty, weighted with history and suffering. His poetry is the voice of this land, murmured through the leaves of Lothlorien, echoing in the halls of Moria.
Indeed, the interplay of light and shadow in Tolkien's verse serves not merely as an aesthetic choice, but as a narrative device, enriching the lore and imbuing the landscape with an almost palpable sense of history. Yet one wonders if this reliance on the past does not in some way tether his work, preventing it from soaring into the realms of true innovation.
Ah, Virginia, always with an eye on the horizon. But remember, innovation isn't merely the casting aside of tradition, it's the reimagining of it. Tolkien may well be the bridge between our literary past and future, his songs a murmur in the dark leading us forward.
Perhaps, James. But there's a simplicity, a directness in storytelling that can be overshadowed by Tolkien's labyrinthine histories and lineages. Where's the human element amidst the litany of kings and battles long past?
The human element, Scott, lies in the very act of remembering. Each song, each poem Tolkien crafts, is a testament to the enduring power of memory, anchoring his characters not just in a place, but in a shared history that defines and ultimately transcends them.
Shared histories, spoken or sung, bind men together in the dark. That doesn't make them essential. They're the fat, and the story is the meat. Strip them away, and if what remains still holds power, still moves you, then you've found your story.
Fascinating points all. It appears Tolkien's songs serve both as threads in the larger tapestry of Middle-earth and as points of contention among us. They illuminate the complex interplay between history and narrative, between memory and the present moment, provoking us to reflect on the essence of storytelling itself. The representation of gender in Middle-earth. What strikes me immediately is Tolkien's reluctance to step outside traditional roles. The women are there, yet they whisper from the margins. Does anyone else sense a missed opportunity to tread new ground?
Certainly, Virginia, it's a glaring issue. Tolkien's world is one of grandeur and depth, yet its women move like shadows, half seen, half heard. Éowyn, with her cry of defiance, "No living man am I, you look upon a woman," stands as an exception, a beacon that merely highlights the darkness around. But even she must lay down her sword.
Ah, but consider, Scott, Éowyn's strength is not merely in her defiance, but in her complexity. True, Tolkien might not have ventured far in painting his canvas with the vivid hues of female dynamism, but in Éowyn, in Galadriel, we glimpse potential, an acknowledgement of their depth, which, alas, remains but a glimpse.
Let's not romanticize it. Tolkien served in war. He saw firsthand the roles men and women played. His portrayal is true to his reality, his era. Strength, defiance, these are not measured solely by one's presence on the battlefield or absence from it.
The matter at hand isn't merely the depiction of women, but the foundation upon which societies construct these depictions. Tolkien's work, vast and intricate, mirrors not just his internal landscape, but the collective consciousness of his time. The critique, dear Virginia, Marcel, isn't solely his to bear. And yet, in the crafting of worlds, are we not gods? Are we bound to the times, or do we hold the quill that rewrites them? Tolkien had the opportunity scarce given to men to redefine the roles ascribed by society. That he chose not to speaks volumes, perhaps of the times, perhaps of the man.
What we seem to circle around here is the admixture of time, society, and individual choice in the creation of literary worlds. Tolkien, no doubt constrained by his realities, offered a narrative structured by the societal norms of his era. Yet within it, as Marcel vividly notes, we find sparks of defiance, of complexity.
Sparks that highlight what could have been a blaze. Literature has always had the power to challenge, to push boundaries. Tolkien's venture into Middle-earth, magnificent as it is, seems to falter, to hesitate at the edge of societal constraints.
Yet let us not overlook the narrative function these characters serve within the world. Each, whether shadowed or illumined, plays their part in the unfolding mythos, contributing to the overarching epic. Our critique arrives, perhaps, as a reflection of our desires for what might have been rather than what is.
Talk of what might have been serves little. We have the world as Tolkien gave it to us. The task is to look at it squarely, see it for what it is and what it isn't. Strength and courage manifest in many forms, whether in the heart of battle or the silence of the Shire.
Indeed, Ernest, and therein lies the dichotomy of Tolkien's world. A realm so vividly rendered, yet in its representation of gender, so starkly reminiscent of the world he inhabited. A reflection, perhaps, of the very real limitations even the most imaginative minds navigate. Now let's plunge into the visceral and devastating portrayal of war in Tolkien's universe. It strikes me as a reflection of the world wars, a maelstrom that reshaped our own lives and writings.
War, in Tolkien, is no stage of glory. It's mud, blood, and the quiet dread between battles. He got that right, the weight of it. Like in A Farewell to Arms, it's about the man trying to survive, to find meaning amidst chaos. Tolkien's soldiers march on, bearing the brunt of history's indifference.
Indifference, you say, Ernest? I see it differently. Tolkien's world, shattered by war, is a tapestry of humanity's darkest and brightest. The Shire's tranquility, juxtaposed with Mordor's desolation, showcases the dualities within us. Suffering leads to growth, destruction paves way for creation. My Yuknapatawpha County similarly thrives on these contrasts. Indeed, the cyclical nature of war and peace in Middle-earth mirrors the interior monologues I favor. Think of the stream of consciousness as a battlefield, with every thought a soldier in the conflict of identity. Tolkien externalizes these battles, I internalize them. Yet, both are wars, with the same casualties and survivals.
Wars, my dear James, cost. The price? The youth, the lost generation that we, too, belong to. Tolkien's characters endure this loss, a shadow that follows even after the victory. It's reminiscent of Gatsby, of the dreams deferred, of the Jazz Age's recklessness birthed from the ashes of disillusionment.
Disillusionment, Scott, is the specter haunting every tale of war. Tolkien, through his narrative, questions what is left when the battle cries fade. Is it honor, or is it a profound silence that speaks louder than the clashes of swords and wills?
Memory, Virginia. War in Tolkien's narrative is an exploration of how memories are etched with fire, shaping identities and destinies. Like the Madeline moment, it's the small, seemingly inconsequential experiences amidst war that define the self, anchoring it to a past that both haunts and shapes the future.
Yet we dance around the fact that Tolkien sanitized war. Where's the dirt, the blood, the raw, unfiltered horror? My words in For Whom the Bell Tolls sought to unveil war's brutality, not to cloak it in nobility.
Sanitized, perhaps. Or maybe it's a reframing, Ernest. A way to find light in overwhelming darkness. My As I Lay Dying, though not about war, delves into personal battles, finding dignity in despair. Must not our interpretation of Tolkien similarly seek out these specks of hope? Ah, but therein lies the rub. Hope, despair, two sides of the same coin. Woolf herself wrote of war's shadows stretching over us, altering perception. Tolkien, like us, grapples with these shadows, attempting to illuminate them through the prism of his fantasy.
And so we find ourselves entangled in tales of war, each a reflection of the other, a maze of mirroring and contrasts. Behind every line Tolkien wrote, there lies a battle fought, within the heart, within the world, within the very fabric of narrative.
A battle fought and a story told. Perhaps in the end that is the legacy of war. Its indelible mark on narrative, on memory, on life itself. It shapes us, for better or for worse, into the storytellers, the survivors, the witnesses. We find ourselves now at the heart of our discussion, the monumental footprint of The Lord of the Rings on modern fantasy literature and beyond. Tolkien has doubtless shaped an era, but let's dissect the true extent of this influence.
In contemplating Tolkien's legacy, I perceive it not merely as a foundation upon which modern fantasy erects its edifice, but as a profound exploration of memory and time, akin to the cherished endeavors in my own work. His Middle-earth, a construction of such intricate lore and history, invites readers across generations into a shared memory, a collective recollection of a world that never was yet always is.
Yes, but isn't the real magic of Tolkien's world its defiance of genre? Here was a man who collected languages, myths, creating not just stories but an entire cosmos. An act of literary revolution, if you ask me. Modern fantasy? It owes its life to him, but so does any narrative that dares to dream beyond the bounds of its own universe.
All that might be, but let's not romanticize the thing too much. Tolkien brought structure, depth, yes, a kind of disciplined craftsmanship to fantasy. Before him, fantasy was child's play. After him, it became a serious business. The man was a soldier, after all, understood order, discipline. He built his world as a general builds his campaign with precision, strategy. That's the legacy.
Ah, but Ernest, you're missing the poetry of it all. The legacy of The Lord of the Rings is not just in its structure or its discipline, but in the sheer beauty of its hope, its idealism amidst despair. Much like Gatsby reaching out to that green light, Tolkien's characters reach for a world beyond their grasp, inspiring not just fantasy but all literature to dream bigger, to imagine a world beyond the confines of our disillusionment.
Dream bigger, yes, but at what cost? The man painted in broad strokes, good versus evil, the noble quest, the hero's journey. And yet, within these broad strokes lie the intricacies of human condition, the shades of gray. That's where his influence truly lies, not just in fantasy, but in storytelling's very nature. In every word we write, we're all, in some way, conversing with the shadows Tolkien cast. Shadows that question, that provoke.
Intriguing perspectives, all. Tolkien's work indeed transcends mere genre to touch upon the broader human experience, weaving a complex tapestry of myth, language, and morality. His legacy, as we've unearthed, reaches far beyond the confines of Middle-earth, challenging and inspiring narratives in their myriad forms. We now approach the culmination of our discourse on Tolkien's opus, The Lord of the Rings. Each of us has navigated these realms with our distinctive lenses. Let us cast our final reflections upon this enduring monument of literature. Ernest, would you inaugurate our closing thoughts?
Certainly. Tolkien's narrative is a battlefield, evoking the stark realities and psychological impacts of war. One cannot ignore the semblance to the trenches of the Somme, the sense of brotherhood amidst desolation, the perseverance. It's the raw simplicity of struggle and survival that resonates, a stark motif against a sprawling mythos. Yet, where Tolkien embroiders with elves and orcs, I prefer the unadorned truth of human conflict and spirit. This divergence notwithstanding, his portrayal commands respect.
Your emphasis on the visceral, Ernest, is commendable, yet it singularly frames your world. Tolkien, on the other hand, weaves memory, time, and the ethereal with the tangible. His world is an intricate tapestry where each thread sings of nostalgia and loss, much like the involuntary memories that pervade my own work. To wander in Middle-earth is to experience the past as palpable, to dwell in moments suspended between the ephemeral and the eternal. This, to me, is the essence of literature, an endless reverie.
Marcel, while you meander through the avenues of memory, Tolkien crafts an entire cosmogony rooted in linguistic artifice. The conceit of creating languages to scaffold a universe is, in itself, a modernist pursuit, albeit cloaked in the guise of fantasy. Yet, therein lies the rub. The narrative, for all its ambition, often succumbs to the very structures it seeks to transcend, becoming ensnared in the conventions it ostensibly defies. A fascinating paradox, don't you find?
Paradox or not, James, the heart of Tolkien's tale beats with a romantic idealism that kindles the embers of my own predilections. His heroes, flawed as they may be, aspire towards grandeur, a reflection of the Jazz Age's disenchanted quest for meaning amidst the rubble of a war-torn world. Yet, where I see disillusionment, Tolkien sees hope, a quaint notion perhaps, but one that speaks to the resilience of the human spirit. This intrinsic faith in redemption and courage, despite the evidence to the contrary, is where our paths converge.
Scott, your romanticizing skims the surface of deeper, murkier waters. Tolkien's Middle-earth is not merely a stage for valor and heroism, but a landscape wrought with the complexities of decay, corruption, and the cyclical nature of time. Like the dilapidated manors of Yoknapatawpha County, the ruins of Numenor echo with the whispers of the past, a testament to the inescapability of history and the futility of man's aspirations. Thus, Tolkien and I are kindred in our exploration of the human condition, albeit our methodologies diverge.
This assembly of opinions, as varied as they are, underscores the multifaceted legacy of The Lord of the Rings. From the trenches of human conflict to the liminal spaces of memory, from the introspections of language to the battles waged against the inexorable march of time, Tolkien's work indeed traverses the spectrum of human experience. It engages with the elemental forces of nature, the complexities of fate and free will, and the perennial struggle against the darker aspects of the self. Such is the power of storytelling, to reflect, to challenge, and to immortalize the intricacies of life and imagination. In scrutinizing Tolkien's oeuvre, we find not only a mirror held up to our own creations, but also a window into the ineffable mysteries that govern the heart and the cosmos alike.